The WNBA is on fire. Let's get into it next. Well. What a week it's been in the W. One thing I'll say about the W always keeps it interesting. Doesn't matter what's going on in any sport, the W is always they're always the ones saying, hold my beer. You think you got some interesting stuff going on? Wait till you see what we got. Kawhi stuff? Don't worry about that. Crazy stuff in the NFL week to week? Don't worry about that. We got you covered. So to see what's going on in the WNBA right now, we're going to break down a couple things. Obviously, I'm talking about Napheesa Collier's comments this week about the commissioner, Cathy Engelbert. We're gonna break that down, and then we're also gonna get into hey, we have a finals. What about that? We might want to discuss that too. So it's gonna be two for the price of one. Let's put it that way today. So let's get into the first item. WNBA had after the Lynx Phoenix series, Mercury series finished earlier this week. I guess it would have been, I think, Sunday or Monday. Don't quote me on the dates. Try to remember. Everything's fuzzy right now, folks. A lot of stuff going on. But when that series ended, which ended in 4 games, controversial play late in the game with 2 superstars, involved in it. Thomas steals the ball from Collier. Collier gets hurt. Thomas goes up for the breakaway layup. Essentially that pretty much sealed the deal for Phoenix to win in a close game, a 1-2 possession game at the time. And, Cheryl Reeve went crazy. Sorry, that was game 3. My apologies. That was game 3. My apologies. Because she got suspended for game 4. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on. She got suspended for game 4. So she got in this case taken care of with a suspension. And then afterwards, once that happened, they moved on, in this case, to the game 4. Another close game. Minnesota had the lead, actually, in the 4th quarter, I believe. And then afterwards, if I recall, and then Phoenix did what Phoenix has been doing throughout the whole series, plugging and coming back and playing very physical. Anyways, press conference comes, exit interviews for the Lynx. And Collier comes in her walking boot because she was hurt in game 4 and she's going to be out for a little while. She comes up with the walking boot to the press conference, and she seems to have something like a paper of some sort. She had, in this case, prepared statements. Now, I won't state in this case here what she said. You can go check it out. I'll probably post a link down below so you can see it for yourself. I'm going to sum up what came out of it. Essentially, she had scathing criticism for the commissioner of the WNBA on 2 fronts, actually. So she thought Cathy Engelbert, she pretty much says, the worst leadership she's ever seen, essentially. Pretty much putting it out there that she doesn't think she's the person for these times and for where the league is, about to go and where it's starting to go. It's no 2 ways about it. It's on the rise. She also mentioned in her comments that interesting comments, I would say. She's at one point asked her about the young, the young rookies, or in the rookie scale class. Let's put it that way. They're bringing in a lot of attention, a lot of revenue, a lot of eyeballs. Obviously Caitlin being at the top of the list, Angel, she mentioned, Angel Reese, and of course Paige Beckers. It seems like Miss Engelbert's response to Napheesa was to say, "Hey, hold on 1 second, she, in the case of Caitlin, she should essentially be thankful for what we've provided her, this platform she's provided, and she should, and then those ladies, as well as the rest of the WNBA players, they should be grateful and be on their knees, essentially being grateful for what the WNBA has offered. This is what we call, in this case, folks, when someone, in this case, A, has not read the room, and B, is thinking a little too nice of us. I smell, think their stuff don't stink. Because for Cathy Engelbert to mention it as if she's the one, and I said before, the W has been on the rise. I've made this argument. I'll continue to make this argument. It was already ascending when these players came into the league. My thing has always been the nuance behind it. It's not all or nothing. Everyone's been involved with it at different pieces, different portions of the pie. Everyone gets some credit. Maybe some get more than others. I'll let others decide that. But my point has always been, it was on the ascent. And once again, nothing due to the commissioner, to be honest with you. It's due to the fact that the players were actually interesting to watch. They actually gotten some health in this case in the league. So fair enough. I give her credit for that. with some of the ownership decisions that have been made. And also, obviously, the new young, fresh talent that has come in. 3 of the key players that were mentioned in the conversation are heavily contribute that, and especially Caitlin. And for them to say, like, oh, these players and Caitlin in this case, Caitlin's getting offers in this case from the big 3 and Ice Cube. What are you talking about? I'm sure overseas they'll pay her a boatload of money, including all the other ones in this case here to come over there and play. Like, is she smoking something? I think the problem I have here with this is that you have to find a way to work with your partners. And your partners in this case are the players. But Cathy Engelbert seems to think in this case she's a solo show. Like, no, you're not, man. You're part of a band. You're not out here by yourself. It's like you were part of a band. You just can't go in there and just think that you're doing everything yourself and you're the one setting up all these things for these folks when they came in with millions of people following them on Instagram, on X, wherever it may be, wherever social media platforms, and a huge fan base from their own schools, right? They didn't need to do so in this case here. What I was saying in this case, she might want to take a lesson from these young ladies, because they've shown in this case here how to actually market stars and market players, be it with their deals that they've acquired, be it in this case here their own personalities and how they actually done that. You might want to take a lesson there, Cathy. But the fact in this case, let me just broaden it out for a second here, because at least I have never recalled, I don't think people understand the magnitude of what we're seeing here. I have never seen a player of that stature actually rip on their commissioner. I mean, arguably Napheesa Collier in some circles might be considered to be the best player in the league. It doesn't matter if you think it's Wilson or her. The point is she's in the conversation. And for her to actually state that, and she has the respect from her fellow players, which is very important. I'll get that in a second. But when you do that and you say that with a prepared speech, this wasn't off the cuff and someone asked her a question, say, you know what? Hey, what do you think about the commissioner's decisions about blah, 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 blah? No, she came in there with a purpose. Now, two of the things she mentioned were issues. Was one, in this case, the money, which is what I was alluding to with the comments about Clark and about the players in general. That one's pretty obvious what that one is. I mean, obviously they want more money, and right now Cathy Engelbert is playing hardball in this case. She don't want to give up any money. I'm of the mindset is that you could push like the offers I've seen in this case that the WNBA is offering is pretty laughable, to be honest with you. That's just me, but they're pretty laughable. But the other item was what was the officiating. And if the officiating in this case has gone too far as like, having professional officials that know what they're doing, that know how to manage a game. I think the phrase in this case that Napheesa Collier mentioned, was, then games get out of control. And if you watch hoops, you know exactly what she's talking about. There's a certain rhythm, a certain pacing that referees know of how to handle things and can actually anticipate when things are, quote, getting out of control. And I think the other thing I don't think she mentioned, but I'll mention it, I think my issue with the officiating more than anything else is the inconsistency of it, which is frustrating at times to watch. And now let's face it, officiating in every sport, I mean, we had some plays in this case here just in the last week or so with baseball. Just last night, the Yankees series, Yankees Red Sox, where there's some pitches that look like strikes and they were called balls. So the umpire situation when it comes to balls and strikes, and they're putting in some stuff next year, which might make things a little more interesting as far as like streamlining that as much as possible with the technology. That's for another subject for another day. But I think the officiating, at least, most of these folks are part-time. It shows at times. But I think they really have to put in the resources and money to do so. And this is where I agree with the leadership comments from Phee. Because I have been on Cathy Engelbert for years of being behind the 8 ball and always being caught flat-footed on every major thing. It's ridiculous. Take, for example, here's a perfect one. You knew last year in this case, Caitlin Clark was coming into the league. You knew that the intention on the team and on the league was going to be like wherever fold it would be. 2-fold, 5-fold, 10-fold, 100-fold. For you not to have security around not just Caitlin, but pretty much all the players in the league based on how you see that the world is now, and considering that in this case, let's face it, They are a marginalized group across the board. They're women to begin with. So therefore, in this case here, they are likely more persecuted in a much more violent way half the time than men. You would think in this case here that you as a woman would have the, the understanding, like, you know what, we might want to put some more security. You had to wait in this case till someone at the airport started running up on Caitlin Clark, and then a few other players after that to say, you know what, maybe you might want to actually have some security. This is what I'm talking about. You act like in this case here, you just fell off a turnip truck. Here's another example. This year, I'm sitting here talking with the guys on Basketball Rewind. We're discussing, maybe offline. And you know what? In this case, I would just say, in this case, asexual product was getting tossed onto the floor. It was all cute and funny the first time. I'm looking there going like, that ain't so cute and funny. Here we go. Time and time and time. And it was like about 4 or 5 times. And I'm waiting to hear something from the commissioner. Some forthright thing after the first time saying like, listen, this is our league. These are our players. We need to protect them. And you went does so, not only are you kicked out of the game, you will never be able to walk into one of our buildings again. And it was just this humming and hawing. I'm like, are you serious? It's almost as if it's it's slow on the uptake. It's like, come on, man, like get with it. Never mind, the marketing, it's been ridiculous for years. There's a study, I think you can go and check it online on YouTube, that someone had done some response on the study. I can't remember who did the study in this case. I don't want to state which company it was, but they essentially tracked in this case, I guess, the levels of discrimination from the black WNBA players versus the white ones in this case, and how prevalent the white athletes are in advertising versus the black ones. And I think one of the things that she's been very bad at is understanding that she has audiences that cut through various sectors. And you could have stars that suit certain sectors of the market. That's how things work. You can diversify. Wow. Fair enough. Angel Reese in this case may not be everyone's cup of tea, just like how Caitlin Clark may not be everyone's cup of tea. But nonetheless, you have audiences for both ladies in this case, as well as other folks in this case that are like, you know what, this is more my cup of tea. I can resonate with this player. Maybe it's Alyssa Thomas. Like whoever the player is, there is someone there for them. And I think the NBA over the years has been very good with that, on understanding that there's different folks, different strokes for different folks, and have marketed it accordingly. I understand what's going on with the marketing, and don't mean start with the expansion nonsense and the Boston / Hartford / Connecticut Sun situation. That's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. So when she talks about poor leadership, when Phee talks about poor leadership, these are just some of the examples. And on the Boston thing, I'll just make my point clearly on this, or why I'm thinking it's a joke. When you have one of the top 10 markets in the league, you essentially don't have to move anything from the infrastructure. Really, not really much of the infrastructure. You have Boston right there's a big time city. You'll have a natural rival for Philadelphia, New York, when Philly gets in as well too. And you're not moving it that far out of the actual market. So therefore, Connecticut fans can still go and watch their team. And then also have Boston fans now that Boston folks come to the games as well too. Like this seems like a win-win for everybody. And also too, the evaluation goes up because they're paying like not only market value, probably past market value, probably about market value now, because I think they're looking about almost $400 million. Which, by the way, this is the folks that are crying poor. By the way, folks, on the side note, I love how the WNBA is crying like, oh my gosh, we just don't have the money to pay the players. Yet evaluations for franchises, the Valkyries are up $500 million. I could go right now online on any online brokers and look at see how much the Liberty's worth. Liberty's worth like something like $400+ million, and so on and so forth. Pick the team, like give me a break. This idea, and Boston was willing to buy this Connecticut Sun franchise for something like almost $400 million, like 380 something. Like spare me about crying for the poor. Please, I know that Vegas franchise must be worth who knows how much. So this idea of like, oh, geez, I just don't know the money. Let me ask you this, guys. I've never seen any billionaires in this case here decide to go into a losing business. You seen them? Yet somehow I'm seeing like cities with billionaires left, right, and center lining up to get an expansion team. So what does that tell you? Nothing else. But anyways, this situation right now, I'll say this right now. At the time of this recording, I will not be surprised by the time we get past the weekend. I mean, it's already happened in this case. I think Sports Business Journal, don't quote me on it, but I believe Sports Business Journal was the one that started saying that after the negotiations of the CBA, Cathy's going to be not long for this job and she'll be moving on. Based on what I'm seeing right now, and I'm not sure yet if they put out the all defensive teams yet, but she's been kind of scarce the last 48 hours because she should be out there actually giving like things like, awards and stuff like that. Obviously with the finals here coming up on this weekend, it'll be interesting to see what her comments is. If she's going to have a State of the Union address like how Silver has. At this moment, I have not heard that yet, but she's been very scarce. And I would not be surprised. There's a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of crisis management happening right now in the WNBA office because I don't think she's long for this job after these finals. That's where I'm saying right now. I don't think she makes it to CBA negotiations. I think as soon as these finals are done, she's out the door. So that's what I'm saying. You know what? You guys give me a comment down below and tell me what you all think. Maybe you all got different thoughts than me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Next subject. Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a WNBA Finals, if anyone's noticed or heard. The first thing, these playoffs have been fantastic. A quick summary here. We have fantastic Game 5, Vegas, Fever, went down the stretch. Poor Kelsey Mitchell got hurt, in the third. That was horrible to see. I mean, props to Stephanie White and that crew. You talk about coaching some folks up, man. I mean, it was the MASH unit out there, and they still were fighting right down to the last second. Obviously, Sims turning back the hands of time. What a game by her, man. I think she ended up with 28 or 30 by the time it was done. I said before, the key in this case in this series was, can Aaliyah Boston at least play close enough so that the delta between she and Wilson is not that much? If you look at the games in this case that Indiana won the series and were very competitive, those are the ones in this case Aaliyah Boston played well in. It was a tough set. It was a tough whistle for the, I would say definitely the 5th foul. I don't think the 6th foul was that bad as people say it was. She bounced Jackie Young off the ball. That would have been a change of possession. Most refs will call it the same way. So, but the 5th one, the pick and roll and the screen, a little bit, to quote my man Raftery, is a bit of a nickel dimer. Didn't like that one, but to be fair, saw some in this case with Asia Wilson in Game 3 in Indiana, and I was like, really? We're calling these now in the first and second quarter. So, to each their own. But, this goes back to the point that Phee was talking about with the officiating. The officiating is way too inconsistent. It needs to get better. I won't go back to last year, Game 5. It was a travel, folks. That's all I got to say. But anyways, let's get into the matchup here. Phoenix, Phoenix, Las Vegas. This is going to be a really entertaining series. It's going to be very physical because Phoenix is going to make it that way. It's going to be, I think, pretty up-tempo. I think Phoenix has a grittiness to them that, that if Las Vegas takes their foot off the pedal, they're going to get the same treatment that Minnesota got. And they've had their moments as well, too, like Minnesota, where they've had leads. They've let leads go. They've been a little sloppy. They've been a little stagnant on offense. And I think when you play Phoenix, that can't be the case because Phoenix is going to run it right down your throat. On the Phoenix side of things, they have to be careful of getting getting foul trouble because I don't think they have enough front court depth in my mind to deal with Wilson, and they have to be very judicious on how aggressive they're going to be when it comes to defending her. I wouldn't be surprised in this case they send more doubles or traps compared to Indiana. I know that's a risk because now you leave, as you saw in the overtime, all those guards that can knock down threes. You're susceptible to that, but you got to pick your poison. And, you could go with the theory of giving like Asia 35 and see if you can kind of hold down. The key is, can you hold Jackie Young down to say something like 20 or 18? And then making sure that Jewel Lloyd doesn't go off in that sense. That's what you got to think of. Give Asia her 30 plus and hope that you could do that. What Indiana didn't do was they gave Asia her 30 for the most part, but what they didn't do was they ended up giving Jackie her 32. So you can't have two of them going off for like 30 apiece, having 30 pieces, and then when then you're Gray's getting what she wants when she wants it. Like at that point, that's trouble. One thing Phoenix got to be careful of, and we saw it a little bit in the Minnesota series, but they're pretty good on the boards. But they got to be careful. Jewel Lloyd's been very good on the offensive boards. She's been slipping in there and getting extra possessions for her team. So watch out for that. I think that I won't get too much more into it besides that because let the fun times roll, let the good times roll. These playoffs have been absolutely outstanding for the league. Don't let all the other noise around it get to you. This is right now great basketball we're seeing. The league's in good hands overall. We'll get through this, WNBA fans. We'll get through this, and I'll make a prediction. I'll go Vegas in 6. I think Asia gets the next ring. What a season she's had. What a season. I've never seen a superstar actually really literally carry a team that looked to be dead in the water, like how she did this season. It's been something to behold. I mean, they're 500 pretty much sometime in late July and just went on a tear. Unbelievable. After the All-Star break, just went on a tear. So, AT, she's doing her thing. She's had a fantastic season. My girl Copper, love her in this case. I love her game. Sabali, she never shied to get some shots up. So, and Jackie Young's been playing out of her mind too. So it's gonna be a fun series. You have a lot of stars on the court, and this is what the W wants to see. The stuff off the court, it'll get sorted out. It's always the case once games start happening, folks start moving their attention to that. So I'll leave it there, guys. That's where I'm at right now with the W. It's never dull. Love it. Can't wait for next season when the Tempo are in. I'm going to have to get me some Tempo gear. Probably check out some games. Looking forward to it, folks. As always, you know where to find me on my social media platforms. That's Blue Sky, that place called X, Facebook, and of course right here on YouTube. And on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear your thoughts on what's going on in the W and any other sports. So check me out then, and I'll be back again very soon with some more stuff coming here from Beyond the Locker Room. Peace.